Hello, everybody. I'm Gilly English from the Dan Maskell Tennis Trust, and we're here today with Sam Smith, one of our vice presidents, the former British #1 and leading tennis commentator, who's very kindly agreed to do some interviews with people involved in disability sport, disability tennis in particular, to promote Dan Maskell and talk about the world of disability tennis in general. And delighted to have Martyn Whait with us, who's very well known in the wheelchair tennis and disability tennis world. Sam, I'll hand over to you to grill Martyn with some questions, if that's okay.
It'll be very gentle, Gilly, very gentle.
Oh, that would be nice.
Martyn, I know you've got a packed schedule today. I think you've just come off a tennis court. Whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm at the Loughborough Tennis Club, and I've just been on court with Dan Ward, one of our national age group players, who's currently ranked, I think, 3 in the world, under 18 in the wheelchair game. And currently we've got James Shaw, who's number 3 in the country, 4 in the country in the quad division. He's training as well, so it's packed schedule here.
What is you've been coaching for over 20 years. You've done many Paralympic games and world team games as well. What is a typical day like for you at the centre?
Well, we actually, I'm part-time working for the LTA, where I help out Alfie and Gordon with their doubles and work with the podium potential players. I also, I'm a coach at a regular club with disabled and non-disabled players, and I have a real mixture between that in my working week. So today, I've got a session as I had with Dan this morning. I'm following up with an adult group session that I've taken for 30 years. With different people coming and going, and then back into some junior coaching this afternoon, and I've got some more wheelchair performance coaching as well. So another full day.
That you wouldn't want it any other way, would you?
No, love it. Absolutely love it.
In your coaching, I was reading that you also help deaf tennis players, and you sort of go across the spectrum. Can you just explain a little bit about your work with all types of, not really, I would say disabilities, but all types of play, deaf, partially sighted, and how you manage? I mean, it seems very difficult in a way to have to coach so many different types of players.
Well, we're very fortunate that the LTA runs an open court program where they give us a bit of funding, and we manage the sort of East Midlands area for them. And it means that we can go to clubs, and I can speak to the coaches and kind of dispel their fears of coaching disability tennis. And Dawn Upton, who's our disability coordinator, she will speak to the local SEN schools and try and make a match up between those. Currently, we've done festivals for learning disability tennis. Deaf players are integrated within our normal program, regular program, and a lot of it is just communication. I believe that everybody should have the opportunity to play this sport that we love, and be it age, ability, or disability.
In terms of how wheelchair tennis has progressed since you've been coaching, what are the major changes?
I think the professionalism. I mean, it's come from the Stoke Mandeville days where it was rehabilitation and there was the social aspect. And even when I started being on tour back in 2000, there was a lot of activity in the bar in the evenings, and there was the end of tournament social. And I've just seen it progress into something where they're playing at the slams now, and it's very professional. Have teams with a full support team around them, and it's a legitimate way to earn a living for our top athletes. But also we have a localized competition structure as well, which means I've had it before where people are like, well, if I can't get to the Paralympic Games, I don't want to play. And well, I'm never going to compete in the Ryder Cup, but I like playing golf. So play the tennis because you enjoy tennis, as opposed to I've got to get a gold medal.
How do you see the sport progressing, and particularly the future of sort of Team GB?
I think it will get bigger. I think we've got a very good junior program in the country at the moment, and that's really we're competing on the world stage. We've got some real competition against from Japan which obviously had funding because of the games. But I see that it's going to be very structured programs, and very much like the LTA has their academy structure at the moment, where the players are at a younger age training almost full time. We will be getting to that stage in the future. But I do hope you've got that grassroots level and the social level and integration with players that are new to the sport is as important to me as the top players.
In able-bodied tennis, I think the ideal age to start, I believe, it slightly horrifies me, is sort of 5 or 6. Is there an ideal age to start if you're a wheelchair tennis player, if you want to get right to the top?
Well, to be honest, we had there were players that were coming into the sport later on when I first started coaching wheelchair tennis, because that was when guys were getting motorcycles and having accidents, and so they were acquiring a disability when they were maybe in their 20s. Whereas now we're seeing a lot of players, because the profile of disability sport is so much higher. I think that parents are kind of getting their children who maybe were born with a disability into sport a lot earlier. So, Dan and the other national age group players who I work with, we started off with mini red, and we were playing with balloons to increase their mobility and all of those things. I was contacted last year by a young player, Ness, who was 3 years old. And it was like, right, how can I actually get Ness to hold a racket and be able to push the chair? But his mum was lovely and brought him along to watch and speak to the junior players. And I went to Halfords and picked up one of those grip mats that you put on your dashboard to stop your phone from slipping around. And I put that on a mini tennis racket, so it would help him get a bit of grip on the rims. And we got him playing tennis with a balloon, and he was smiling and loving the sport. So that's the earliest I've ever tried. But yes, and then we've got Gordon Reid, who is a Paralympic gold medalist and former world #1, and won the first wheelchair Wimbledon.
I remember that was on court 18. That was an extraordinary moment, wasn't it?
Oh, I loved every minute of that. I've known Gordon for a long time, but he was a county level tennis player on his feet, and then he got an illness, transverse myelitis, which led to him being in a chair. But it didn't end his tennis journey, and for him to be able to pick up a racket and then compete to the level that he has done, I love that. He's still going strong.
I noticed behind you, you've got a picture. I think that's Rafa Nadal hitting a forehand, and it sort of triggered in my mind that are the wheelchair tennis players now having idols within wheelchair tennis, or are they still idolizing, the Federers and the Nadals and the players of the past? Is the profile of wheelchair tennis getting so large that a young player may say, "I want to be Gordon Reid, not Rafa Nadal"?
Mm-hmm. I think it's changing. I think because people are seeing the players on the big screen, they're seeing them at Wimbledon. They've come and visited. I think they are household names now. And sometimes I'll mention wheelchair tennis, and if I'm out for a meal or and just in a social setting, and they will reel off Jordan Wiley and Alfie Hewitt and Gordon, Andy Lapthorne. And it's like, yeah, that's great. These guys are not even tennis players, and they've heard the names and they've seen the tennis.
The Dan Maskell Tennis Trust is all about support. Can you're at the sort of the coalface. You're seeing day to day what wheelchair tennis players need. Can you really sort of encapsulate for us just how important and what that support entails?
The Dan Maskell Trust is amazing. It gives people opportunities. We have players who come to me. I had a young girl who was interested in playing wheelchair tennis a couple of weeks ago, and the first thing is a sports wheelchair. She'd never played in a sports wheelchair before, but these can be £1,500 up to £6,000 for a competitive sports chair. So that's a blocker right there. So to be able to get people going, and then I know the Dan Maskell Trust has a kind of lease program that they have, which can make those chairs more affordable. It takes away one of the blockers, which is superb. And then the next thing is to have coaching. and we'll all try and do what we can to help players, but to have the Dan Maskell Trust allocate some funding to help with coaching has really helped. That's really helped for the wheelchair players in particular. And then we've also we've run a festival for learning disability players here, where we had almost I think it was 65 learning disability players plus carers plus coaches, all organised over 7 courts, and I think I counted about 97 people who were on court at one time, all organised, all safe, before COVID. And the Dan Maskell Trust had agreed to then fund another one of those festivals, which again brings it to a whole new community.
It just seems to be so much infrastructure that needs to go around wheelchair athletes that maybe able-bodied athletes don't even think about. Do you feel that's the case?
Yes, I mean, getting around the world, if to travel with 2 chairs, 1 sports chair, and to make sure it gets there safely, because the baggage handlers are not always the most careful with their packing. But then it depends on disability level. There are players with spinal cord injuries that obviously have some care issues, and they've got to think about how they structured their day, which the non-disabled players may not. Also, we need to be very conscious of injury prevention, because there are players that may be day chair users, and if they get tennis elbow, there's no resting it up. That could affect their ability to transfer from the car to the chair, to get home, and they can be long-term injuries. And what I've always said, as I'm working with players that are quite young now, I've not done my job if in later life I meet up with one of my ex-players who's being pushed around by their spouse because they now can't push their chair. As far as I'm concerned, sport should enhance lives. And I'm very conscious about technique which will protect their young joints, because your shoulders are not supposed to be doing what they're doing, propelling a chair from a young age. So I do everything I possibly can to make them safe.
Martyn, I can see why they've put you in charge of some of these programs, and I'm very pleased. I think they're very lucky to have you, from what you've been saying. And obviously there's a lot of thoughts now about what happens to wheelchair tennis with COVID and on the restart. What are your hopes, fears, and where do you see everything sort of getting going again?
Well, I mean, I think obviously we've got the games next year, and we're revving up for that. Alfie, Gordon, and Andy and Jordan will be jetting off to New York with a +1, so it's a limited team that will be with them. I'll join Alfie and Gordon again for Roland Garros, and the competition will start. I have to say that as everybody does, and as a performance player, you get on that roller coaster of tournaments, and actually it's difficult to make some technical changes. So with the juniors in particular, to have no ranking goals, to have no stress about their performances, has actually helped us really dig down into some technique. And also they're not at school. So I've been seeing them a lot more. So when there was lockdown and I wasn't able to do anything, and then suddenly the government said, or the LTA said, that we were able to do individuals, the phone was just ringing off the handle, and I suddenly was on court many hours a day, and I'm not sure I was physically ready for it. But we've been able to do a lot of technical work with the players and prepare them for the future.
I'm sure Abby Breakwell was the first on the phone, if I gauged anything from chatting to her the other day.
Abby's an amazing character, and she has challenges with her disability, but she just wants to live her life. And I think that sport has given her that avenue, and she's an absolute workhorse. And we have fun on court, and she's a lovely girl, and she's going to be successful.
Martyn, it's fascinating, really fascinating to chat to you. I will be commentating on the US Open and French Open, so I'll be across to see how that they're all doing, and just want to wish you well and thank you very much for your time today.
Well, thank you very much, and please come across. It'd be lovely to meet you in person.
We're not able to do it on site, unfortunately. We're going to have to do it off site.
Okay.
But we will be keeping an eye on you. But when we get back on site, come and say hello. Come up to the commentary box and say hello. We'd love to have you there.
I would love to. Thank you very much, Sam.
All right. Thanks, Martyn.
Thanks very much, Martyn, for your time. And you better get back onto court.
Thank you very much.